Brad, without any further ado, I say we get into the news of the week.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
All right. It's brought to you by Eagle Mortgage. We love Eagle Mortgage because they do such a great job of taking care of all our Grow Omaha listeners and subscribers. Holly Schneiderwind and her team at Eagle Mortgage are very customer-centric, work with you to figure out what you really need. And it's January. This is the time of year where people are starting to think, okay, we're going to start looking for a house this spring. Well, the spring housing season these days starts in February. That's not very far away from now. So get into Eagle Mortgage, talk to one of the mortgage brokers, get your pre-approval letter, get your ducks in a row, and when you start to do that crazy house searching thing in February or March, you're going to be ready. You can find them in person at 114th and Davenport or online at eaglemortgagecompany.com. Well, first up, Brad, Mayor Stothert had an interesting quote in a World Herald article earlier this week. She said that we should hopefully have an announcement as to what is going to happen at the W. Dale Clark Library site within the next 6 weeks. A lot of potential out there. You and I and many other people in this city who follow this sort of thing have heard countless rumors about what might happen to that site over the last year or two. But if we truly do hear something in 6 weeks or less, I kind of found that as a bit of a surprise.
I was really surprised. I figured a year from now we might hear something because you got to think they need to still remodel the new location for the downtown library, move the library, demolish the current library. We're a ways out on actual construction, so it was really surprising to hear that 6 weeks from now we'll get an announcement.
Yeah, that is a good point. There's a lot that has to happen, a lot of moving pieces. Of course, the public services part of the downtown library is going to move to a to-be-renovated historic building at 14th and Jones Street. The back office and distribution stuff will move to a former Costco near 84th and Frederick. But, yeah, that's going to take a while to get both of those facilities around. The other thing is that maybe it might take a while to tear down that thing. I mean, I'm no expert on construction, but I drive by it and it looks like a concrete bunker that was designed to withstand a nuclear bomb blast.
You know, I would have thought the same thing, but after watching them, how fast they tore down the Civic Auditorium, which I thought was a big concrete bunker, I don't think it takes long to tear down anything when they really want to do it.
I guess that goes into the category of nothing is permanent, right?
Yeah, nothing.
Well, it's going to be interesting to keep our eye on that because the World Herald article talked about Fiserv, and we had heard intel for the last 2 years that Fiserv was a very potential candidate. And I kind of get the feeling, I could be wrong on this, but I kind of get the feeling that had the pandemic never happened, the Fiserv building would be under construction already on the library site. I just get the feeling that they may have changed their mind during and perhaps because of the pandemic.
Yeah, when we first started hearing that Fiserv rumor, it sounded like it was a done deal and the announcement was going to happen real soon. So the positive thing is there was a lot of interest. I forget what she said. There was a dozen or so developers interested in that lot. So I'm going to guess whatever happens is going to happen fairly quickly.
Yeah, and one of those rumors is Mutual of Omaha. Again, these are all rumors. You hear a gazillion things, but there was one rumor floating around just maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago that Mutual might put a 15 to 20-story tower there, presumably developed by some developer. There were rumors before that Mutual of Omaha might be looking at the old UP headquarters site that Lanahaw Development has. Mutual of Omaha might also look at Turner Park East, where they tore down the Runza.
Yeah.
I mean, there's space there now.
So Mutual has a lot of options in Midtown. They have, even if you don't look at that Turner Park East, even on their existing lot, there's a lot of surface parking lots that could be redeveloped into an office building too.
And then as you and I have talked, there is a pretty well-grounded piece of intel that a 2,000 employee office might be going to North Downtown and Millwork Commons. We don't necessarily know who that is, but that's a moving piece in all of this downtown development talk.
Yeah, it's interesting to speculate on all these with so much available land downtown right now between the library, the lot east of the library, the old UP site that Atlanta owns, and North Downtown.
Well, it's going to be fun to keep an eye on it, as it always is, because we know, well, I guess I'm extremely confident we're going to have some blockbuster residential announcements in downtown over the next several years. If for no other reason than it's desirable. We've sunk $300 million into these 3 parks, the first one coming online in May. It's almost inevitable that we'll have some blockbuster residential projects. But to hear that Fiserv was serious looking, that Mutual of Omaha is looking, that some other company apparently is looking, that's a good sign for the future.
It definitely shows interest down there.
Absolutely. Well, let's move right along and go a little bit to the west. And the planning board earlier this month gave approval to a mixed-use project, primarily residential, but a mixed-use project that is planned for Saddle Creek Road between Pacific and Mayberry. And for people who are not familiar with that area, you might be able to picture the Baker's Supermarket on the corner of Leavenworth and Saddle Creek. This would be just to the south of this on the west side of the road. To me, this looks like a pretty impressive project. Brad, let me give you some of the details, and then we'll get your opinion on it. 195 market rate apartments, underground parking. That would be in the big 6-story main building. Then there would be an outbuilding of 3,100 feet for a credit union and another outbuilding of 2,500 square feet for a coffee shop or a restaurant. This is quite a project.
Yeah, it'd definitely be a nice infill project. I know some people are disappointed that we're going to lose a couple of historic buildings, but I think overall it'll be a great boost to the neighborhood. I don't know if people realize that, but in the 80s there was a rail line, an active rail line running right through that property, and those are old industrial buildings that the railroad served. And so, the use in that whole neighborhood has really changed since the 80s, and it's maybe time for a spruce up and time to maybe reconnect some roads in that area. That Pacific Street connecting to Saddle Creek would be a boost to that neighborhood too. And there's a lot of good that will come out of this project.
I 100% agree. In fact, I've been a little bit perplexed that there has been some negative blowback about this, because while some of the buildings perhaps are historic and there could be some nostalgia from that old railroad-driven industrial area and industrial time, if I'm going to be blunt, I don't think these buildings that they're going to take down look all that good. At least the ones right on Saddle Creek.
In their current state, they definitely don't. And it's the med center growing. This is not one project that's going to happen. This is the second or third in that area of at least a few more coming down the pipeline. So,
and I would say you can expect and should expect there to be quite a few more, because you think about it, if the med center does go through with its plans, which are going to add 8,700 generally high-paying jobs to that area, and with all of that capital investment, I think the number of these, multifamily 4 to 6 story buildings with some mixed use component, you can imagine you're probably going to get, plus the New Hampton Inn hotels moving forward.
A lot of these projects too, I feel like, they build them on the edge of the neighborhood, and they kind of like frame in the neighborhood. The fabric of the neighborhood with all the single family houses in the middle are all still there. The neighborhood's still a great neighborhood. It just adds to it. We used to live right up the street from there, in fact, and if I still lived on 52nd Street, I would have been happy to see this right down the hill from me. So
yeah, I'd much rather have a project like that than underutilized industrial.
Definitely.
Hey, we do want to give a little bit of a national commercial real estate and business news perspective, as we often do, from CoStar, a company that is kind enough to provide us with some real estate data. CoStar recently talked about an annual study that tracks where and why Americans are moving, and found people flocking to states and cities with lower populations. In fact, according to United Van Line's National Movers Study, the Medford-Ashland area of Oregon, and Punta Gorda, Florida, led the nation in percentage of inbound migration. The survey found that people typically are leaving New Jersey, Illinois, New York, and California because they're high cost, high density, high tax type places. And now one of the things that was a little bit frustrating about the states was that Nebraska actually came in 10th for most outbound moves percentage-wise, which shocked me, because the percentage population growth in the last couple of years in Omaha has accelerated, as it has, I think, in the Lincoln area. But that greater Nebraska area, doggone it, sounds like they continue to lose people, but the eastern part of the state is thriving. But at any rate, that's your commercial real estate national perspective, brought to you courtesy of CoStar. Brad, one thing I do want to work in real fast before we go to the break, a state senator is proposing a bill that would provide $500,000 to fund a study determining whether we need a high-speed commuter rail line between Omaha and Lincoln. This sounds really, really, really cool, but I just don't know if they could ever come up with enough ridership to justify it.
Yeah, I would be all on board for it, but I don't see it being feasible. You know, when we go visit family out in D.C., we'll take their commuter train up to New York or Philly or whatever, and it's awesome. But those are so much bigger cities connected. You know, I just don't see enough people around here to make it feasible.
Yeah, I mean,
as much as I want it.
Oh, I mean, it was so cool, but you know, you think about it, New York, Philadelphia, Boston, and D.C. are all in the top 10 largest metro areas in the United States. Yeah. Omaha and Lincoln, not so much. The concern I have about it is if we had it, great, cool, fine, as long as the feds paid for it or whatever, but I don't want it to hurt Omaha's efforts to get some rail in the streets here. I think you can definitely justify rail between downtown Omaha and the Med Center and maybe Exarban Village. And I would hate for something like this to take away any progress we have toward the intra-city. Right.
That would be a lot. The money would be a lot better spent, I think, in Omaha right now than trying to connect the two cities.
Where we have the density.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's Brad Williams substituting for Trenton Magid. And that is also your news of the week, brought to you by Eagle Mortgage, eaglemortgagecompany.com. If you like this video, be sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons. And remember, Grow Omaha is not just media. This is a mission. We are trying to build up Omaha and make it an even better place. We can only do that with your help. Share this video with your friends, neighbors, and family.